Hi, welcome back to another episode of Coldstream Rod Shop. I'm Derek Fraser. For those of you joining us for the first time, we're a small hot rod shop doing part-time here in rural Nova Scotia. We're working currently on 3 different projects. We've got the Camera Ladies 32 Ford chassis, which is going to go under this 32 Ford Roadster body. Then over in the other building, we've got a 33 Ford chassis, which is going to be going on a 5-window coupe body going on it. And then also Ellie's 32 5-window coupe body that we're working on. So in this week's episode, we go week to week. I try to complete particular projects on things on each chassis and each project, but whatever happens during the week, we try to cover it. So what we'll try and do this week, we've got a few things coming in that we're going to work on the Camera Ladies chassis. I think there's some more parts coming in for the 33 Ford chassis. And then also I've still got a lot of sheet metal work left to do on Ellie's 32 Ford 5-window coupe. So anyways, follow along, see what we're up to. We're working on 32s and 33 Fords. So one issue I had on last week's video was that I connected up the TV cable for the AOD transmission on the Y block. Didn't really need to do it just now, but it was one of the things we got to do before we put the body on it and everything else and had the parts. So I kind of trial fitted it. And what I found was that this bracket, when it mounted directly on the stock Thunderbird intake manifold, it interfered with the cast iron bracket here, and I didn't want to modify it. So the solution was to order a 1-inch spacer between the carburetor and the intake manifold, and actually we got it in today. I put it on, had to retap the Chinese version of the standard threads, of course, but once I got that, everything threaded together and it's just fine now. So we've got some clearance between the throttle bracket and the intake manifold. I've got a nice black 1-inch spacer on top of the intake manifold, and apparently that's not a bad thing. So that's one more problem solved, and anyways, we're on to the next thing. I'm back working on Ellie's coupe. Last week we got this front cowl quarter panel welded in place. It's pretty much where I want it to be. A little bit more dolly work around the weld line I'm going to do. But one thing I did was I fit the door on. Well, previously we did the panel on the bottom of the door. I did whatever I could to try and get the right distance from top to bottom, but ultimately I got the patch on straight. Now, I'm not a big stickler for door gaps, but it's going to be reasonable. I mean, these old cars had, very variable, like from small gaps to wide gaps. But I mean, we got to keep up with the way we find acceptable things today. So on the bottom of the door, it is just a little bit too tight. In the back, it's good. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the door back off. I'm going to grind away the bottom of the door here and then weld it to basically change that gap. Now, all the way else around, it's okay. It's a little tight up top here. But what I might do is when we fix the weld on the chop, I'll more than likely address this weld here because I'm not sure what I'm going to have to do here to fix things up. But for now, and then ultimately we may put a little bit of a rod here. But for the moment, I'm going to fix this section on the bottom as we work away at the quarter panels. Make sure we've got decent fit on the quarter panels. So like I said, what I'm going to do, I'm going to grind away at the bottom, take the door off. I've made a mark with a black marker. We'll grind it away, weld it up and dress it and put it back on again. So there's the bottom of the door after I ground away to the black mark. Just went over it with my MIG welder and made sure I had enough penetration so that I'll be up beyond where I'm going to grind to. Just did a little bit back and forth, trying not to put too much heat into it. So what I'll do now, I'm just going to dress that on this side, across the bottom and across here, and I'm going to go back over onto the car and make sure we get it right. I also did a little bit up there on the side. I had it off, so I might as well do it while I can, and I won't have to do it later. I wasn't really planning on taking the lower hinge out, but I couldn't really tighten it up. So anyways, I had to heat up all the screws and get them out with the impact gun. Now I currently have the hinge out. I've taken it over to the bench there, cleaned it up a little bit and retapped those holes. Now I got to find some 5/16 24 screws. The original ones, what I used to do was take these machine Allen ones. I would grind the head down and put a slot into it. kind of like that as a makeshift kind of version of Ford's screws. But anyways, we've got to find a couple more of those. I'm going to put it in place with these two for now, which I should be able to tighten it up. Then when I get the third one, I'll be okay. And then we'll get the door fitted back on here to tuck the gap one more time. So there's not much room here to show, but I did fix up the door gap a little bit up here. Now, I still may have to come in here because I need to fix the gap on, or the chop here. But originally, when they did the chop on the rest of the body there, as you can see, it isn't just a gap with the door, but there's a misalignment here that I have to correct when I go to fix this and all the way around. So that's in the future. We'll get that done. We're still going to work on finishing the gap some. What I did for the short term is I just put two of those 5/16 24 screws that I had in place until I can get some more. Everything's tight. I still might have to take those out and clean them up, but for now they're not loose, so we're good. I can still finish fitting the door. And then along the bottom here, I think I've got a pretty good gap going along. It's nice and even now. I didn't have to add any material on the back, but ultimately once we finish this up, if I have to, I will. But it's okay right now. So problem solved on that for the time being. And now we're on to the next thing. So I'm going to do a little bit of work on the 33 Ford chassis. What I'd like to do, or I'm going to try and do, is actually get the front end on with the spring and the front axle. The customer supplied a dropped I-beam drilled axle, same one that we put on his 32 Roadster. We got a front leaf spring. And then on the front, I don't know if I actually covered this or not, but quite some time ago, he dropped off a set of stock split wishbones. We cut the I guess the wishbone part, the U-shaped piece with the ball onto it, off of these. What happened though, I found out that this particular side, actually they had quite a significant bend to it. So initially I tried to do it over there, my 12-ton press, and it absolutely would not budge it. So had to run down to a friend's place here who's got an automotive shop, and we put the oxyacetylene to it, heated it up and straightened it out. So we're good to go on that. So the plan is to use this tie rod end kit with these brackets to put it on the 33 chassis. So gonna get ready for that. But I think first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull out all of the parts. Most of this stuff should actually just bolt together, with the exception of these, where I'm going to have to weld these bungs onto the split wishbones. I'll chamfer this around, make sure I get a really, really good weld all the way around with lots of penetration. We'll get that done and then start setting the front end up here once I get all the bits and pieces painted. So probably what I'm going to do, I'll paint them. I'll go work on Ellie's coupe a little bit, and then once I have everything painted, I'll start putting this together. So this is a little bit of a repeat of last week. Last week I made this lower cowl patch panel for the other side and welded it in place, and I showed everybody how I made it. So if you want to see how I made this panel, go see last week's video if you didn't see it already. This panel, all I needed to do was basically finish making this flange here, which goes up against the A-pillar. And of course, a whole bunch of fitting and going back and forth and trimming and everything else, because ultimately this flange here had to be trimmed to fit along the cowl band, and we had to fit it to the exact size of this. Also, one thing I didn't mention last week is when we were fitting the body to the sub rails, I had to finish welding the A-pillars to the sub rails. I did that on the other side, but I forgot to mention it last week. So a lot of finishing. I couldn't access like this side of the A-pillar until I took the quarter panel off. I kind of knew that ahead of time. So that's done now. We've got it all welded all the way around. So right now what I'm going to do is I am going to attach that panel up there to the cowl. I'm going to use 4 of my panel clamps along with the Cleco. The Cleco, we're going to drill a hole right here and then drill it through the sub rail to hold it in place. And I'm going to use those panel clamps along this flange here. Now what it'll do is give me like a 1/16 of an inch gap all the way along. And then what we'll do is we'll tack weld it all the way along, let it cool, tack it, let it cool, and then take the panel clamps out and then do the same thing in between. Kind of the same thing I've done many times on this channel before, but that's what you got to do. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to finish off this lower cowl quarter panel. So there's a driver's side lower front cowl panel all welded in place. I'm dollied up good enough. I had to clean up the section there around the cowl band. There was some old welds in there. I had to dig them out, clean them up, and try and salvage that situation. But I think got that successfully done. You know, the weld line is not perfect, but it's good enough. You know, I guess if I were one of those professional metal shapers, I would spend another 10, 15 hours dollying it for the sake of reducing the body fill by a 1/16 or less of an inch. But at this stage, this is nice and flat and tiny little skim of body fill on that, really ultra thin, and you'll never know that I patched it. We've got the corners all welded in the back there where the body line comes up to the subframe, and likewise in the front, the holes are all filled up. So ready to go on to the next step, which was to replace the bottom of the driver's side door, which I thought was going to be easier than, or the same as what we did on the passenger car side. But lo and behold, it's really, it's pretty bad. What I thought was a good bottom of the inner door was actually someone did a really nice job making it up. However, they made it up of 22 or 24 gauge metal. Looks like something you'd use for ductwork or whatever. Whoever it is, they got the right shape and everything else. It's all nice, but there's water sat into this thing for a while and just absolutely rotted everything right out. So what I'm going to have to do is make a whole new piece across here, replace each corner before I do anything else. So quite a bit more surgery to take place on the driver's side door. So I'm going to pick away at that piece by piece and show you how I do it. Well, Sunday afternoon, we didn't go to a car show again this weekend. Worked a little bit too much in the shop. But I think with the weather changing, it's supposed to rain the next couple days. Got to get her out for just a little drive. We'll go for a little drive around the block and enjoy the hot rods, because that's why we built them. For the bottom of the door, got a couple bends onto it. It's got this step here. I did make these quite a while ago when I did the 32 pickup. I don't know that I kept the patterns or anything like that. There's probably a few ways you could do it, but I did it on the brake in this particular case. The step dies on the bead roller. They don't go deep enough to get to this point, so I had to use the brake. Now, a lot of brakes over here, they come with, depending on the one you have, they come with this L-shaped piece that's bolted on the bottom here. But also you can remove, in this particular case, there's a smaller piece here that you can remove. So you've got a small edge here. The problem with this smaller edge on 18 gauge, it doesn't bend very well. So my suggestion when you come up with something like this, do it on a scrap piece of metal first. What I found was I I did this bend first, then I took this off, and I was able to make the this shorter bend here. I can't remember exactly. Yeah, okay. It was the last bend was this one, and I actually had this piece off in order to do it. I tried doing that one first, but at the bottom part of the brake flexed too much. So anyways, I should have set my time lapse up, but I guess the point being, in order to make the piece that you need, take a scrap piece of metal first. Try different approaches, bend one angle first, one angle second, and then ultimately then you're going to go to your main piece like this. So right now that is the piece I'm going to use as my the bottom piece. Sorry, it's a little slow for words here right now, but this will go along there. So what I've got to do now is across the bottom of this, there's a sweep to it. So I did save a template that I had from before when I did the 32 pickup. I cut a piece out of it because I needed a piece one day, but I still have this overall shape. So what I've got to do now, I'm going to draw, well, I'm going to take the measurements for where we are here on either end. We'll draw the arc onto it. And then what I'll do is I will allow a certain amount that'll bend over. And then we'll tap it up with a hammer. So I'm going to show you that part of it. The brake part, sorry, I didn't set the camera up, but I think most of you get the gist of it. Now, the curved flange, you could use a tipping die, but what we're going to use is we're going to use this metal buck or whatever, or pattern or whatever. We're going to clamp it to the table there, and we're going to tap everything up with a hammer. So watch along. So there's the bottom of the door. Sorry about the time lapse. I set it up so that you couldn't see me beating the edge over. And then halfway through it, I realized it and I twisted around and I could show you how I was knocking this edge over on the metal form. So right now it's ready to be trimmed, and I'll cut out the rusty parts. My intention is to use it up out to the edge here on either end, even though The door is normally put together in a couple pieces. We've got some major rust here. So what I'm going to try and do is stick with the way, as close as I can to make it look the way Ford did it. But I think this patch piece will actually extend out a little further than what it normally does, just because the metal's quite seedy here. It'll actually reduce the number of patches I'm going to have to put into it. But this lip, I'll bring the lip out all the way on both sides, and then probably have to do a couple little patches up here or something, but we'll see. Next up, I'll start trimming it, cutting the old pieces out, but we're going to get the bottom of this inner door fixed. I did get the suspension parts painted for the 33 5-window coupe. The wishbones, I welded the bungs on the wishbones, and one of the wishbone had to be straightened out. Don't know if I mentioned it or not, but I had to go to a friend's and use the oxyacetylene. We straightened her out. So the two wishbones are welded together. They're all fresh coat of paint. Gonna let them dry for a while. We have some of the other suspension parts hanging up top there. I painted these outside, and then, because I didn't drop the booth, and then I brought them inside here after they're hanging out in the sun for a while. We'll let them dry for at least 24 hours or more. And then hopefully we'll start at least trial fitting it in the 33 frame here. So we're doing work on the 33 as well. So I got a little more work done on the door bottom tonight. When I took off the patch panel here that they made up of duct metal, I think. Like I said, they did a fantastic job. Got the bends all in the right places. It was just too thin a material to really kind of last. But anyways, once I took it off, there's two little spots where it welds onto, and it basically was gone. So cleaned all those up, welded a new piece in place, and then now I've started fitting the bottom that I made up. Now it's not 100%, but this is as far as I'm going to go tonight. Tomorrow night I'll come back out and I will finish fitting that and then weld it on. But as you can see, the door bottom is coming along quite nicely. Now, a little bit of update on the front end for the 33. Really wanted to put this together, start trial fitting it on the frame. One thing I didn't check on when I initially got all the parts was these split wishbones. I think are 33, 34, I'm guessing. The axle is a later axle. The spring perches are thicker. So these spring perches here are 2 1/4, and then the space between here is 2 inches. So I'm going to go back to the gentleman that owns this and look at what we could do. He's got a friend with a machine shop, so potentially we might machine 1/4 inch off the bottom of these pads where there's excess material, or I know he's got lots of other parts. He may actually have like a 32 to 34 axle that's been dropped that he can put in the place of it. So anyways, everything's all painted up nice. I will let you know what the outcome is on this one. So there's a lower inner door frame all welded in the patch. It went quite well. Some of the metal I had to cut back a little bit and put a little more metal into it because it's a little rusty, but for the most part, the rest of the door was pretty sound. The other thing that I did, I went off of the other door bottom on the passenger side and drilled all of these holes for the upholstery. We may or may not use them, but I'm trying to make it look as close to original as we can. But for now, the lower patch panel's in. It seems to be straight and sound, so ready to move on to the next step of the process. Well, that's it for another week of Coldstream Rod Shop. Had pretty big plans to work on all 3 projects, but what it turned out to be, we worked mostly on Ellie's coupe. But that's the way it works sometimes. The suspension parts will solve that problem. It's a fix of matter, more than likely, of taking a little bit off the bottom of the axle so that the wishbones will fit. Common issue. Many of you probably have faced that before. And then over on the Camera Lady's Roadster chassis, we're waiting for a few more parts to come in before we do a few things on that. But like I said, there's lots to do here. We still got lots more to do on Ellie's coupe. We've got to make the panel on the outside and work away on a bunch of other things. But anyways, that's it for this week of Coldstream Rod Shop. Please like, share, tag, and subscribe. Come on back next week and see what we're up to. Everybody take care.